Got some red and green and yellow shit next to the salmon. Just a little bit of seasoning to finish it off.
I've got some, I get 80 grit, that'll clean it down.
A bit of 80 grit, yeah, a bit of 80 grit, I'll give him 80 grit. The fact that you can just put it in a bag and then get rid of it, that really appeals to me. Well, there you go, that's come out really nice. Trying to blag some diesel. You worked really hard on it? Yeah. Let's have a look then. Oh wow, I should have got hold to paint my side flares for me. You've done a superb job. Well, here we are again, back at the workshop. Now, I've just finished working on Rebecca's composting toilet, or should I call it a separating toilet. Let me just show you how this has worked out. It's turned out really well. I really am pleased with this. So here's the lid, as you can see, inside here. This is the separating toilet, the separating components. They consist of a urine separator, and underneath here is a urine bottle, and then behind that is our bucket for our number twos, should we say. Inside this bucket, Rebecca's going to put a plastic bag. So when she goes to the toilet, her urine will go in the bottle, and all the other nasty stuff goes in the bag. Really clever, I've got to say. I've never been keen on a composting toilet. Just don't like the idea of driving around with a bucket full of poo in my van. But Rebecca has really opened up my eyes to this. The fact that you can just put it in a bag and then get rid of it, that really appeals to me. So now that I've built one, I might have to build another one for my van. So I'm going to put this to one side. Rebecca wants to paint this. Once all the glue's dried and everything, we're going to take the hinges off, and then she's going to rub it down, get rid of any risk of splinters, as it were, and then give it a coat of paint. So that's done. We haven't got to worry about that anymore, because today I'm going to carry on working. Got to be careful not to get any splinters from this on my side flares. I'm going to start prepping these for painting. When these fiberglass mouldings are produced, they're produced using what's called a gel coat, and when that gel coat comes out of the mould, it's covered in silicone and it's extremely shiny. So the trick is to get rid of all that shine and get rid of all the silicone as well from when they were moulded. If you don't do this, the paint simply won't stick to the fiberglass gel coat, as you saw in my previous video. I'll show you a little clip of that. We want no shine at all. I'm simply going to use 400 grit on a DA, go all over it, get rid of all that shine, and I'll need to do that to both panels before I even think about putting primer on them. Now, before I turn the DA on, one very important thing I need to do, and that's put on a mask. After all, you only get two lungs, and I'm very attached to both of them. They've served me well over the years, so it's always a good idea to look after them. Right, let's get DA in. Absolutely anywhere. Yeah, I'm pleased with it. That's good enough. Now, some of you may remember I got these flares from Sophie and Andy. When I got back to the workshop with them, I noticed the big one had a big warp in it. It was actually warped and curved. And on seeing the video, Sophie and Andy were mortified, so they got in touch with EVO Designs. And credit to them, EVO Designs actually swapped them over, so they sent me another flare to replace the warped one. And here it is. And no, EVO Designs have not sponsored this video. As you know, I got these flares from Sophie and Andy. They bought them from EVO Designs, decided they no longer wanted them, and put them on eBay. And that's where I came across them. So here it is, this is the big side. And I'm pleased to say it's not warped. But as you can see, it is really shiny. Hopefully the light picks that up. Hold it there. you can see that it's got this shine on it. So the next job is to get rid of that shine. Just like I did small one. I'm really looking forward to fitting these because I know it's going to make a really big difference to my van. Right, let's crack on. If I rub my hand over it, I can actually feel it. I can feel that slight layer of silicone. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over this with panel wipe first before I even start sanding it. Usually I would sand the panel down and then go over it with panel wipe. But because I can actually feel the silicone, I'm going to give it a go over with panel wipe first. And panel wipe is basically just a degreaser. It's a very light solvent. It shouldn't damage the fiberglass. That's all I'm going to do. Put some on this rag. Give it a good soak in. Just wipe it over. Do what it says. Give the panel a wipe. Yeah, look at that. Straight away I can feel the difference. So much different. Right, let's get sanding.
Have you done with that box?
No.
Oh,
That's my template.
that's exactly what I'm going to use.
I'll tell you what I'm going to use it for.
I've got the glass full in the boxes anyway, so I can still use it.
No, I'm going to use that for template for my wardrobes. Because it's nice and thick and it's double thickness. It's perfect.
Right, a bit more rigid.
Yeah.
Waterproof.
Hands off me cardboard, Chris. Okay, so now I've taken all of the shine off of this. It's completely matte now. All I've got to do once again is go over it with panel wipe to make sure there's no silicone residue left on here. And then I can put the etching primer on. It's special primer, it's not regular primer. It's called etching primer because it really does stick to the fiberglass. And then the paint can then stick to that. Oh, and by the way, I've rounded off the edges as well. The edges were quite sharp, so I've rounded them off and yeah, just made them a nicer profile. And because they're nice and round, the paint will then again stick to that surface better than rather than a sharp square edge. With a sharp square edge, you've got a chance of the paint chipping off. That's why I've rounded the edges off. So these are our two different types of primer. In this can, we've got regular grey primer. You can also get what's called high build primer or 2K primer. But what I'm going to use today is called etch primer. An etch primer, like I said earlier, it just sticks to surfaces much more than regular primer. This will actually help the paint adhere to the fiberglass gel finish. So that's why I'm using etch primer. And once this is on, I can then paint it, and there's no way you'll be able to scrape that paint off like I did that yellow paint earlier on. An etching primer is also used for painting plastic. So if you've got any plastic surfaces you wish to spray and change colour, then etching primer is the stuff to use. Right, let's give this a good shake and get it on our fiberglass. This is so cold, the ball bearing inside is actually stuck in the bottom of the can. You can hear it, there's no ball bearing rattling, like this one. You can hear that? This one, the ball bearing is actually stuck. So give it a bit of a tap. I wonder how long this has been sat on a shelf for. Be back in a minute. I managed to get it free. I actually put the can upside down and aimed it on the surface. There we go. I think I'm going to have to shake this for quite some time just to make sure the contents are properly mixed up in here. Right, I've been shaking this can now for what seems like an eternity. So let's put some of this etching primer. Just lay it down on here. There we go. It's really dark, which I've got to admit I weren't expecting. Well, this is the very next morning. The etching primer is completely dry, but I can feel, if I run my hand over there, I can feel little specks of dust that have settled on this overnight. So I'm going to take those little specks out using an Abernet DA disc. This is a 400 grit. I'm simply just going to go over it by hand until I can no longer feel any more speckles of dust. And then once I've done that, I'll put the grey primer over the top. So now I've rubbed that all down, it's a simple matter of using my grey primer to just cover the black. We'll do the edges first, because these are upstanding. And once I've done the edges, I'll stand the panel up, right, and then do the whole front of the panel. I'm not going to put this on too thick, it's just literally to cover the black. Well, there you go, that's come out really nice. I'm really surprised how well these spray cans work. And I'm just making this video to show you that you don't need a huge compressor to do this sort of work. You can do it using just aerosol cans. Right, now whilst that primer dries, I think we're going to go and take a look at John's van, see how he's getting on. He's made immense progress. He's done a superb job as well, and it would be rude not to show you exactly what he's done. John, you got a minute to show everyone your progress?
Yeah, sure, Mel, yeah.
I see you've painted all of this now.
Yeah, well, I had a diesel spill from about 2 years ago, and it always smells a little bit diesel, so I've got some concrete paint to seal it all up and everything, so I've sprayed it all.
That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, and hopefully I've just got to give it a bit more of a sanding down and then maybe another coat.
Nice. And did you have the diesel leak from that tank, or was it the standard tank?
It was the old Chinese one, standard one comes, because you put it in the bottom, and I parked it up and I didn't know it was leaking, so it had all winter to permutate, and I had half a tank in it as well. So
you had half a tank of diesel?
Yeah, all in, yeah.
I actually say that in one of my videos when I suggest using these tanks.
Mm. It is one of your tanks. I got it from your video, yeah.
Excellent.
The vented one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got that.
My vented lid has actually gone wrong now. The little nipple on top, the rubber has deteriorated. It's just...
Mine seems to be alright.
Yeah. It's funny that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've just got a big hole where that goes now, and I've actually said to people, don't fit the vented lid. But yours is okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's got air coming out of it.
And this is just concrete paint. It's sealed all the smell from the diesel.
Yeah.
It does look really nice, John.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
I've still got to do a bit more on it and everything else. And I've now got the diesel coming from the main tank underneath.
Oh right, so you're not going to...
So this will be coming out, and then I'll just be painting all that. Everything, but I want to use a lot more of this first before I connect it up from the bottom. Yeah. Do that.
You can always tip it out there and put it in the diesel heater in the canteen.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how much I've got in my tank. Because when I cut it to get the level of the tank,
I'm just yanking your chain.
Yeah.
I'm being a bit of a cheapskate, in other words. Trying to blag some diesel. What about inside the van? How are you getting on inside?
I've got the shelving, basic shelving out. I've worked really hard on this.
You worked really hard on it?
Yeah.
Let's have a look then. Oh wow! You have done really well.
So I've got the makings there, everything. They've got the overhead cabinets. The base. I'm just waiting for the hinges to come and the handles.
Look at that.
Yeah, and we've
in the kitchen, you've destroyed it.
Yeah, and we've cut the to make it the bigger entrance for the shower.
Oh, see now, when you said about, I thought you were taking the whole shower out of the van.
I was going to, but
you're making the door bigger.
But Eve didn't want that. She just wanted it to be a wider opening, so that's what we did.
Makes perfect sense now. Yeah. So what's happened to the kitchen? It's all gone. Where's your sticker wall gone? I was going to give you one of our stickers.
That's over there, so it's safe.
Oh right, it's still
yeah. They're worth a lot of money, them stickers.
Yeah, they
so
do cost a lot.
Bench with bench top. We've stuck it together to make it longer because I'm getting a 2-hob gas sink put in here, which has come, but the glass plate on it's smashed, so they've got to send me another one.
Oh no.
Yeah. So.
Oh John, I've got to ask. Handle. Somebody asked where you got the handle from.
Come with the van.
It came with the van.
Yeah,
oh,
it came with the van, yeah.
Somebody said they needed a handle. The yellow handle, where did he get it from?
Fords. Came with a vehicle.
Well, there you go. You probably could go to Ford's and buy that as a part, I'd imagine.
I imagine, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. To the person that asked where John got his yellow handle or grab rail, it simply came with the van, unfortunately. So you'd have to go to Ford's to get one. How much longer do you think it'll be?
Well, I'm hoping to be away around about 20 seconds or so.
A couple of weeks yet then.
Yeah. So you better do another upgrade on it if you want to do it.
Yeah, we'll catch up with you again in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, John.
You're welcome.
I'm going to go and see if my primer's dried now.
Okay.
Isn't he doing well? Don't forget to give him a thumbs up. What's AD up to? That's a big hoover.
Yeah, it's a very good hoover. Vacuum cleaner. So,
What is that?
this is a planer thicknesser.
A planer thicknesser.
So, we've got a piece of timber for John's van.
Right.
It looks a bit skanky and not very clean. So I'm going to run the machine, I'm going to plane this down so it comes out nice and flat like this side. So give me a moment and you'll see.
Oh right, let's have a look at this. A planer thicknesser. I think I used something similar in Australia, but the blades were on top. It was like a rotating blade, and I put these. No, yeah, look at that. Yeah,
So that's the surfacing
and that's
part.
the rotating blade.
And then underneath is the thicknessing part.
Okay. I was working on my uncle's boat,
Yep.
doing the like battens for the ceiling. It was
Yeah.
like a decorative ceiling in rosewood.
Yeah. Oh yeah, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I did half get ill though. Oh my goodness, look at that. Nice bit of dust from the paintwork.
Sorry, mate. You'll be dry by now.
Look at that.
Nice and smooth.
Too easy. Don't think you'll find one of those in B&Q. Right, let's get all the dust off my panel now. I'm glad I hadn't just painted that on with the base coat and the top coat. Are you going to use that machine anymore today? Only I want to paint these.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That was it. I was just wanted to machine that up. I didn't get it all dusty, did I?
It's only the
Primer coat.
Primer. So,
I've got some. I get 80 grit. That'll clean it down.
bit of 80 grit. Yeah, a bit of 80 grit. I'll give him 80 grit. Right. It's not quite dry yet. You can see it's still wet on the sides there. So I'm going to wait for that to completely dry, and then I'll take it down and I'll start on the smaller one. Well, I've now painted this panel as well. I've done a little bit of a touch up on this one. It had a little bit of a blemish here, so I've rubbed it down, re-primered it. Now I'm going to leave this for a couple of hours to dry off really properly. I need it off gas. So it's always a good idea to leave your primer for a couple of hours before you actually put your base coat and lacquer on. So whilst that dries, I'm going to go and have some lunch. Well, it's just occurred to me whilst I'm cooking my lunch that some people have actually asked me to do a cooking video. Well, I'm no chef, believe me, but I thought I'd just share with you what I'm having for my lunch today. I've got a nice bit of salmon, I've got some red and green and yellow shit next to the salmon, and that's all being cooked with butter, basically, no oil, just a nice bit of salty butter, and that's basically my lunch. And to cook my lunch, I'm using my induction cooktop. After all, it is a nice sunny day. So basically, a Mediterranean meal today. Just a little bit of seasoning to finish it off. Lovely. What a lovely day. I'm amazed at how little dust has actually collected on here. There's no high points. I'm just going to flatten this down again, and then the base coat goes on. And once I've done the base coat, the lacquer goes on. Right, so I've gone over the panel with a bit of 400 just to get rid of any dust that has settled on the paint and set into the paint. That's all nice and smooth. So what I'm doing now is going over with what's called a tack cloth. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a tacky cloth, and what that does is get all the dust off the panel. I'm just going to quickly wipe it over like this, and any dust that's collected whilst I've been rubbing it down will stick to the cloth. As you can see, it's turned a nice grey colour, the same as the primer. This is going to get rid of everything on the panel, and once I'm satisfied it's nice and clean, I can then put my base coat and lacquer on top. 2 screws here. Now I can rest the panel like that whilst I paint it. But now I've moved it again and put my fingerprints all over it. I'm simply going to wipe it over once again with the tack cloth. Make sure there's no dust on here at all before I put my base coat on. And the base coat that I'm using is actually a special mix. It's custom mixed by a professional paint shop. I've got the Mercedes code, which is 744. And there's a 1/4 litre inside this can, so there's plenty to cover this panel. I'll probably use the whole can up. That way I'll make sure I get a nice even coat. The worst thing with painting any metallic paint, especially silver, is getting dark streaks. That's why we dust it on and we don't actually try and spray it on and get it shiny. You'll never get a shiny finish with using base coat. That's what the lacquer does. So once the base coat is on, then we then apply the lacquer, and that's what gives us a shine. So just bear that in mind if ever you're using base coat. You don't want to try and get it on and get it to go shiny. You want it matte, a nice matte finish. And to do that, we simply just dust it on. Allow me to demonstrate. Now I'm going to hold the can about 10 to 12 inches away, so I can get a good shape first. And then we simply dust it on like this. You probably won't even see it on the lacquer, on the primer. Like that. That's good. And then we're just going to build that paint up by using multiple coats. There you go, like this. Just dust it on, little bit at a time. Moving the can ever so quickly, because we don't want any streaks to appear. That is literally it. Now I'm going to leave that for a couple of seconds, let it off gas, let the solvents evaporate. You can see I've got a little bit of a dark patch there, that's bad. But it's okay, this is our first coat. Probably going to do about 5 or 6 coats like this, and by the time I finish, the panel will be a nice matte silver. Really quick like this. Keep that can moving all the time. And gradually the panel will change colour. It will turn a nice sheen of silver, which is what we want. It actually feels quite cold to touch this, so I might even actually warm this can up a little bit before I go any further. There you go, that's all we want to do. Just nice dust coats like that. Right, that's enough of me talking. I need to put a mask on now, because after all this is metallic and I don't want to be breathing that in. So I'm going to put a mask on, continue, and I'll get right back to you. Well, the can is starting to splatter a little bit, which means the air pressure inside the can has dropped dramatically. Even though there's plenty of paint left in there, because the pressure of the can has dropped, it means that the paint is starting to come out in a splattery pattern. So that's when you stop. Now's the time to call that can empty, even though I say there's paint in there. Because the pressure has dropped so much, if we carry on, we run the risk of getting little dots everywhere. So that can of paint is done now. So I'm going to let that dry and tack off. I'm pleased with it. It's a nice even cover. There's no dark patches. We're going to leave that now, and then we're going to put our clear coat on top of that. I'm really pleased how that's come out. It's a nice even coat, that is. Yeah, I'm really chuffed with that. Right, so our base coat is now dry. I'm just going to quickly check it, make sure no dust has settled on it. Give a quick look down the panel, make sure there's no dust anywhere before I put the clear coat on. Now this is just a clear coat, it's just lacquer basically, it's a 1K lacquer. I've given it a good shake, I've warmed up the can. I'm going to put a nice dust coat on first, what's called a tack coat. And then once the tack coat goes tacky, then we put a nice thick shiny coat on there. Right, so let's do that next. I'm going to put my mask on for this. And again, I'm moving the can really quickly, not standing still too long anywhere. keep it flowing, but this time I'm holding the can about 8 inches away from the panel. And that is it, that's all I'm going to do. It's not shiny, but it will go tacky, and once it goes tacky we'll put our shiny coat on. Just going to touch it with my finger and just make sure it's just a little bit tacky now. So it's a little bit sticky, that's exactly how we want it. And this time I'm holding the can closer and I'm moving it a lot slower because we want the shiny coat. Just one coat up there, now we can start at the bottom again. And again, nice and slow, moving up a nice layer. It's good enough, I think. Right, so there's not much I can do now till tomorrow morning, so I need this to go off and be really hard before I even think about wet flattening it. It needs to be super dry. Yeah, it's going to have to be left at least 24 hours, if not longer. Right, so all that's left for me to do now is the other side. Well, this is the very next day, and I've got to say I'm really pleased that there's not that much dust on them, but saying that I still need to wet flatten and polish them. I'm a little bit disappointed, they are a little bit blotchy, there are some dark patches, but then that does happen when you spray silver paint. The worst one is actually the bigger one, the one I did last. It's got some little stripes coming across here. You know what, I'm not that fussed really, to be fair, because I know the first country lane I go down, these are going to get scratched to buggery. So, yeah. So all I've got to do is wet flatten them and polish them. But before I do that, let me show you something over here. Let me show you how Arnold's doing. I should have got him to paint these. He's done a fantastic job. I'll just grab something for him. He's having trouble getting his paint to dry. So I suggested using a hot air gun. Here we go. Now he's a little bit dark round here. He's not got a lot of light. Oh Arnold, I just want to show people your fantastic work. Look at this.
So wet.
I should have got Arnold to paint my side flares for me. He's done a superb job. Look at that, all out of a rattle can. There you go, if you use a heat gun.
Great.
Just hold it like a fair distance away. Blow it, when you first switch it on, point it in that direction because some dust might come out of it.
Right, okay.
But once it's going, then you can use it to warm them up.
Great.
And hopefully it'll dry the paint a bit quicker. Just don't hold it too close.
Thanks very much.
You'll melt it. Right.
Give it a good try.
Yeah. There you go, see the dust come out. Yeah, and it'll just warm them up a little bit. Not too close. It'll help dry the paint a bit quicker. Because today's an overcast day, Arnold's having trouble getting the paint to dry, and it is really cold in here as well. So we'll leave it to it.
Thanks, Mel.
Alright. Okay, so all I'm doing is rubbing the panel down. I'm using a bit of 1000 grit wet and dry, and I'm looking for any dust that's settled in the actual lacquer, and also for any mottled effect, like any sort of orange peel effect that's occurring. It's looking pretty good actually. I'm quite pleased how this has turned out. It's just the edges along here that are a bit funky, but I'm not too worried about them. So yeah, I don't think I've got a lot of wet drying to do, to be honest with you, on this panel. I'm really pleased. I'm just going to use my hands, go over it, and see if I've got any shiny spots. If I have, then I'll know. Oh look, there's a scrape there. Oh no. Looks like something's... We've had a bug attack. A bug has gone down here. Let's see if I can... Oh, I don't know if I'll get that out. Oh well, you know what's going to happen. The first time I go down a country lane, it's going to get scratched with branches anyway. So I'm not going to be too fussy over it. Yeah, it's just a little line there that won't notice. A bit of grit there. Let's get my trusty bit of old towel. I think I need to wash this. Look at that there. I'll see if I can get this on camera so you can see what I'm trying to do. Right, if I hold the camera there, you can just see here, it's like, I don't know, it's like an orange peel. If I move the camera, change the angle of the light, you might just pick it up. You can see that effect. So what I do, I get this wet and dry, rub it over, like this. I'll just do this little bit here so you can see what I'm trying to do. If we dry that now, you'll see the difference. This has all gone dull and flat, and this is all shiny and ripply. You can just see. So now, once I've done this all along this whole section, I will get my polishing machine with some G3 compound and polish that out, and then it will look nice and flat like glass. That's the idea anyway. Because this lacquer's quite soft still, it's not properly dry. I'm doing this a bit early really. It's actually rubbing down really easily. It's not clogging up the paper too badly. Plenty of soapy water to stop the paper getting clogged up. So I've flattened them all down, took away any dust. Looks absolutely perfect now, so all I've got to do is polish it. And to polish it, I use G3 rubbing compound. I've had this quite a few years. You can see the bottle's a bit squashed because I actually run over it when I had my workshop. I've got my polisher here as well. I've got a brand new head fitted to it. And the reason we use a sponge mop is because we need to keep it nice and moist. We need to keep this really wet and lubricated, because if we don't, heat will build up between the polishing head and the panel. And what happens then is it binds with the lacquer and rips it off and melts the lacquer, and we don't want to do that. That's why we do it nice and wet. But this does make this a really messy job. Hence I've donned my overalls, because this does spin quite fast and stuff does splash just about everywhere. And not only that, I've actually got my camera sat on top of Rebecca's brand new toilet, so I'm going to need to move that as well, otherwise I will get in trouble. So let's put you over here. There we are. I shall move Rebecca's toilet. Really don't want to get that covered in rubbing compound. Got my bucket of water ready here. The first thing I'm going to do is dip my mop in the bucket of water like this, get it nice and wet, lots of water in there like that, and then there you go. See how that all flies off everywhere. Make sure this is on the lowest setting. It is. Just get some of this. Not even try and get that to work. Get that in there like that. I'm going to spread this all around the panel. Again, lots of water. Keeping these wet is key, absolutely paramount. And because this is a new head, there's no compound actually soaked into this. I'm going to put a bit more extra on there as well. Get it nice and messy. And this is really easy to do on once the panel's fixed to the van. It'll probably be a lot easier. So like I say, I'm not going to be too fussy over it, because I'm bound to scratch it first outing out. That's all I'm going to do. You see, messy. Better do this up. The main trick with this is to keep it moving all the time. Don't pause and hold it in the same place, because if you do that, then like I said earlier, heat will build up on this and it will melt the lacquer and lift the lacquer off the panel. You really don't want to happen. That is bad news. Mess this makes. glad I've moved Becky's toilet. So I can do this edge. I'm not going to try and reach over and do it, that's just too risky. Water. Lots of water. Now I've polished it, I'm just going to wipe it over with my dirty manky old piece of towel. So I'm really confident with this now. I'm going to leave this now. I'm going to let that lacquer go off properly, give it a good week to really go off and make it go hard. I'm confident that if I stick this to the van now, once it's dried out properly, I can give it a really good polish. That's good enough for me. That's good enough for now. You can see the little scratch marks in it, but once I've polished it properly, they will go. So all I've got to do now is the other one. Well, there you go, that's nice and shiny now. Now I'm not going to polish it any more than that. After all, I've still got to fit a window to this, and I've got to fit it to the side of the van, and the chances are when I do that, I'm probably going to end up scratching it anyway. So that's all I'm going to do for now. Once it's fitted to the van, I've got the glass fitted, I'll finish off polishing it. Well, hopefully you found this video mildly entertaining, slightly informative. If you did, then don't forget to give a thumbs up, and I'll see you very soon. Thanks for watching, ta-ra for now.